Across Britain, thousands of historic buildings have been neglected. Their owners unable to restore them because of planning restrictions or lack of money. Luckily, some romantics do take on the challenge of restoring and converting these historic buildings.
Poor things just stood there, neglected and sad.
It is a challenge.
Often, churches, mills and agricultural buildings are abandoned because they seem too big or unfit for residential conversion.
I don't really mind if this lasts me the rest of my days and I die doing this.
It's extraordinary just to actually see, people working here.
As an architect, I'm passionate about our architectural heritage. These buildings have as much history and tell as many stories about our past as any stately home or medieval castle. I love the challenge that these unusual spaces give us when we're trying to create a place called home. This time, I'm helping a couple from Northumberland who want to restore an ancient watermill back to its former glory.
It's going to be oak spokes for the outer rim.
Are you making it?
Yeah.
Eh?
Who else are we going to have do main wheel?
And I'll be exploring the turbulent history that led to the mill's construction.
A mill at Rothbury that looks like a blockhouse, all of that certainly was a testament to a dreadful and terrible past.
I'm in Northumberland, the northernmost county in England and one of my old stomping grounds. On the outskirts of the market town of Rothbury, where the River Coquet narrows and passes through a rocky channel, stands picturesque Thrum Mill, a well-loved local landmark. Unlike the other buildings around it, which over time have been renovated or converted into homes, the mill has stood empty and redundant for over 50 years. Then 3 years ago, it was bought by shoe shop owner David Hedley and his wife Margaret, who was a hairdresser until she took early retirement after being diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. Dave and Margaret have lived the whole of their married lives in this 3-bed semi in Whitley Bay, 32 miles away. But now their dream is to restore Thrum and turn it into a family home for them and their 2 grown-up children.
Came round the headlands and it was just, whoa, look at that. It was so unexpected that there's something like that in Rothbury still to do.
It's going to be history in the making, really.
They paid £245,000 for the 1,200 square foot mill and an adjoining garage storeroom, and they're hoping to spend around £125,000 on the restoration. The mill came with an approved set of building plans, but it's Grade 2 listed and there were no less than 18 separate planning restrictions.
Our friends all know we're crazy, full on crazy. No normal people would buy the mill.
Crazy romantics.
I do think we are really lucky. Normal people like us don't get a chance to have something like this. I think we're really privileged.
It's so lovely to be back, actually. This is really my neck of the woods, an area of the northeast where I used to spend a lot of time as a kid and holidaying up here. This part of Britain is just so stunningly beautiful, but at the same time it's got a real grit to it, where the architecture and all the buildings are just so super strong and such a fundamental part of the northeastern heritage. Look at that. What a fantastic building. What a beautiful location as well. Privileged to be here, really. Trying to find the front door, is this it?
Oh, there you are, George. Hey.
Hi, George.
How are you? You must be Margaret. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, lovely to
well?
meet you too.
What a great building you've got.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Super
Fantastic.
lucky.
Come on, we'll show you.
Super lucky.
Super, it is.
Should we go and have a look round?
Fantastic.
Yes.
Where's the best place to go?
Ryan's dying to show you.
It's a bit noisy down here,
Oh, it's
mate.
incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crikey. You'll never get any sleep at night if it's like this all the time.
Yeah.
you couldn't have picked a more difficult site, could you, really? Not even putting the scaffold up must have been a challenge.
It was. Oh,
Lethal. I'm not even going to ask you why you went for this property, because it's just so perfect, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
I think it went for us, actually.
Do you think?
I think
Oh,
so.
I think we were chosen.
It sat here all this time. Somebody could have done it, but they didn't. It waited for us.
I think it's not just about owning it. You know, you've got to have your input into it. You know, you've got to have had the blood, sweat, and tears. You know, and then when you've had the blood, sweat, and tears, you know, you will feel it is yours, and you've earned it.
Dave is planning to do most of the work himself, and he's got the luxury of not having to finish it by a particular date. One of his biggest challenges is going to be reinstating the mill wheel. It's a key condition of their planning consent, and Dave also wants to use the wheel to generate hydroelectricity to power their new home. So how high would this wheel have been?
14 foot.
Really?
14,
That's
yeah.
massive.
8 wood spokes,
Yeah.
a metal outer ring.
Can I stand on it?
You can, yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to recreate the wheel?
Recreate it, yeah. Hydro is the best option. Might as well get some hydro.
Well, you'd be mad not to do it, really, wouldn't you? You've got this amazing natural power source next to you that can provide all that energy. It's a great way of dragging this building back into the 21st century, but also reusing it, isn't it? You're recycling the building, you're using the energy just the same way they did 150 years ago, just for a slightly different purpose, that's all.
Have a look at the mill, which obviously needs quite a bit of work done.
Oh my God, you've still got the millstones in
Still
place.
got the millstones.
Yes, they're all there.
Can I walk on all this?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
And what's this room going to be in here?
This is living room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lounge.
My God, you've got your work cut out.
Yeah.
The millstones take up most of the far end of the ground floor, but it's written into their planning permission that all of the original mill machinery must be left in place.
Well, that's the challenge. You've got to make all these, you know, artifacts work for themselves. You know, they've got to be unique room features.
On either side of Thrum Mill are two later additions from the mid-19th century. The smaller one was a cookhouse, and the larger one with 2 floors was used to dry the grain.
This is the great kiln.
There's a floor, a bit like a brewery,
Yeah,
perforated tiles,
yeah.
firebox below, and you'd spread the corn on here to dry it prior to them grinding it.
Yeah.
This is an add-on. This is it modernised.
Up to the bedrooms.
Up to the bedrooms.
Yeah.
I love the way you're saying it as if it's all finished. I love that. So this is the
bedrooms.
bedrooms.
All it takes is a little imagination and we're
Yeah.
there.
So this is going to be the view from your bedroom.
Yep.
That's the one.
Oh my God. Look at that.
We watch the salmon leap right from this spot.
Yeah.
The lower floor of the mill is currently accessed by some rickety stairs, leading to its own entrance.
So here we go down to the kitchen.
It's a rustic finish.
The rustic look.
Yeah.
Where's all this come from the floor?
That's come from the firebox.
It's an amazing amount of stone.
That's the spoils.
What's the risk of flooding in this?
Floods. Well,
Really?
when we bought, the report come back, balance of probability, twice in 100 years.
Twice in 100 years.
We've had 2 floods in 2 years.
Are you joking?
They knew exactly where to put a watermill.
Yeah. And then you've got all this kit, all still in place, which is unbelievable, really.
You've still got the wooden shaft.
Yeah.
The wheel itself, it would have had a shaft that size in wood. You don't see them in everybody's kitchen, do you?
No, definitely not. Since they bought the mill, Dave and Margaret have commissioned much-needed archaeological survey work, and for 3 years have been wading through conservation red tape. But finally, they're able to start work. The mill is built over 3 floors, anchored into the bedrock of the river. The lower floor will become their kitchen, incorporating the mill machinery. The old cookhouse will be a snug, with a mezzanine bedroom for guests. The lower floor of the kiln will be turned into a utility room. A new staircase runs up to the ground floor, which has direct access out to the country lane. This will be their living room, complete with feature millstones. There'll also be a storage room, a cloakroom and a study, which will occupy the upper floor of the kiln. Another flight of stairs takes us up to the top floor, which will be divided into 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The mill is Grade 2 listed, so David and Margaret aren't allowed to add or enlarge any windows. But the skylights and the roof will bring much needed light into the whole space. I absolutely love everything about this project. It's the most beautiful building and the most beautiful location. But this is unbelievably tough. They've got 18 separate planning conditions on this building. They've got conservation officers, the Environment Agency, everybody in the local area all having a view about what they're going to do here. And not only that, this building could flood at any time. The restoration of Thrum Mill is now in its 4th month, but progress has been slow. This is because Dave is busy running his shop and can only be on site 3 days a week. Also, time is even more restricted because his planning approval stipulates that he can't work past 1 o'clock on a Saturday. Dave has been helped by his son Chris, who's an electrician by trade. He's also got a couple of men on hand to help out with the heavy lifting, of which on this job there seems to be an awful lot.
I just like it. I just like being here and I like doing all the work. It's different. It's different than what we normally do.
Outside, work on the new water wheel has begun. Dave is constructing a wooden template which will help him confirm the final measurements.
Make a note of that. It clears it by 3 inches that side.
Conservation are insisting that the new wheel looks as much like the original as possible, so Dave's using old photographs of the mill as a guide.
It's a big piece of engineering, that's what I would call it.
The water wheel is going well, but the stairs are problematic. The plans Dave and Margaret inherited included a design for a staircase that goes up through all 3 floors. But when Dave began to mark this out, he found there wasn't enough headroom on the ground floor to comply with building regs. The constraints of this old building makes a redesign difficult.
Can't move the windows, can't move the doorways. So the options are move the staircase to another part of the building, or spiral staircase. It's going to be a spiral staircase as far as I can see, unless there's a stroke of genius.
By turning the mill into their home, Dave and Margaret are changing the fundamental use of this building. But I'm keen to look back to the mill's agricultural past and try and find out about its origins. The best place to do that is in the local parish records. Now, the first time the mill was mentioned is in the burial records of 1693, and it says here that Anne, the wife of Thomas Dixon, the miller at Thrum Mill, Rothbury, was buried here. Now, the next record I found is this map of 1769, about 80 years or so later, and I can see the mill clearly marked, but it doesn't tell me its age at this point. Now, this map was drawn 60 years later in 1832, and you can see the site of Thrum Mill marked really clearly. But what's odd is just a little bit further upstream, a few hundred yards, there's a site marked the Old Mill. And I've never heard of this one before. So we've now got 2 Thrum Mills. I don't know when either of them were built or the relationship between them. And I've completely ran out of leads of information. But one thing this map does show, which is really important, is that both mills were under the ownership of His Grace, the Duke of Northumberland, one of the biggest landowners in the north for the last 700 years. Alnwick Castle has been the seat of the Percy family, the Dukes of Northumberland, since the 14th century. and it's also home to their incredible private archive.
Morning, Chris.
Hello, George.
How are you?
Welcome to Alnwick Castle.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Chris Hunwick is the estate's archivist, and I've asked him to look into the history of Thrum Mill and the old mill that I've discovered on the map. Unbelievably, Chris has found the link between this mysterious old mill and one of the most infamous events in British history.
Well, the 9th Earl, under whom that mill was built, spent nearly 17 years in the Tower of London, implicated in Gunpowder Plot.
That's amazing.
He put his cousin, Thomas Percy, in charge of the castle here as constable.
Yeah.
And Thomas was one of the key conspirators who actually hired the rooms underneath the House of Lords to store the gunpowder.
My God.
And unfortunately for the 9th Earl, the night before the plot, he'd popped over to Sion House, where the 9th Earl was in residence, on the outskirts of London, and possibly tipped off the 9th Earl that he might not want to go to Parliament the next day.
I see. And so then how did the mill come about? What's the connection there?
Well, the Earl was fined £30,000 for his implication in the plot. So the Earl set about improving his estates to improve the revenue so that he could pay for his fine. And mills were critical to that. Here we are. Welcome to the archives, George.
Oh my word. What a fantastic place. Look at this.
In this Rothbury box here, we've got a letter from 1608. And you'll see here, this is a letter from William Ord, the collector of rents for the Earl, based in Rothbury.
Yeah.
He's writing to the Earl in the Tower. He suggests an improvement for the estate. You see this. This is a new rent. I have agreed for the building of a fulling mill to be built on the river of Coquet, or Coquet. This first mill, known as Thrum Mill, was a fulling mill, so it's to do with wool. So this is his suggestion, that if the Earl outlays £12 to build a new mill, he'll get £5 back per annum thereafter.
If he had to pay back his £30,000 fine,
Yeah.
£30,000 is a staggering amount of money
It
if you can
is.
build a mill for 12 quid.
Exactly.
55 years later, our mill, a corn mill, is built a few hundred yards downstream, and Chris is able to show me the very first lease.
Here we are. So you'll see, interestingly, this is labelled Rothbury New Mill, alias Thrum Mill. This is quite nicely written. And so this now describes it as all that watercorn mill with the appurtenances now erected or to being erected upon the river of Coquet. And the first tenant is Richard Gare, and that's his mark. We don't know exactly what happened to that first one, but it could have been flooded out. The Coquet does flood often, even now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
It could have been to do with the ravages of the Civil War. So perhaps the fulling mill falls out of use during the course of the 17th century, and then this new mill is built a bit closer to the Thrum, where the force of the water is really powerful.
It's been 4 months since I was last at Thrum, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things have moved on.
Morning, mate. How you doing? Hi, George.
And the news is the staircase problem hasn't gone away. Dave is still struggling to come up with a design that works for him, the planners and building regulations.
Instinctively, and I mean I've only just turned up on site, so there might be other constraints on the back of this, but instinctively I was thinking, why doesn't the staircase, and it might feel like it divides the room up a bit more on this level, but your upper level would work better, is actually if your staircase went up here, turned, and went up again. So instead of being a long linear stair, which is going to wreck your bedrooms upstairs and your bathrooms and everything else, actually you do a kind of tighter, more contained stair. It wouldn't be a spiral. I'm not a fan of spirals, to be honest, because I think...
Not in a mill, especially.
Well, the other thing is that sometimes it's pointless, because with a spiral staircase, you've still got to have the same width turning back on itself anyway.
By changing the linear staircase to one that turns, it will comply with all the regulations and won't block any windows. I've also suggested that Dave and Margaret move the master bedroom ensuite to the centre of the plan to make the bedroom the full width of the mill.
The compromise would be on your bedroom too at the back.
Right.
Yeah? to come along and down, the staircase is then going to have to turn back on itself around here, which means this is the door position that might have to move to make it work. You might have to move that door position from here to somewhere like here.
Outside, the water wheel is taking shape.
Look at that!
That's got me overall dimensions.
That's fantastic, that!
It's going to be oak spokes for the outer rim, for the spokes.
Are you making it?
Yeah. Who else am I going to have do main wheel? You know, I think what it is it's literally like a lonely building. You know, it's used to noise. You know, you should come through the door, and there should just be noise and vibration, and there's nothing.
It's a living thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's a dynamic piece of architecture. It's not something that's just standing still. It's active, kinetic piece of kit.
On the lower level, where the kitchen will be, Dave's been busy. He's cleared the rubble and lifted the old flagstones before installing underfloor heating. Today, he's got the boys together to start relaying the floor, and he's asked me to lend a hand.
Nah, that is a heavy bit of stone, that. Well, I picked the heaviest one first. I'm gonna have a hernia.
I think that's the thickest one.
You definitely stitched this.
Yeah, good on you, George.
See, most architects just sit in the office all day. Pretty little sketches, few doodles. Not the northern lads, straight into it. They're all different thicknesses and everything. You're working with a natural material that was here for, you know, kind of industrial use, really. And it's important to try and get those levels right, so when we put a bed of mortar down there, it's going to be like pushing these things in, trying to level them all out. And we just need a very gentle slope from that top edge all the way down to all the mill gear, because if this place does have a flood, we need to get the water out.
Thrum Mill's solid construction is why it stood the test of time. But back when it was built, flooding was the least of its worries.
This map shows an area of just over 8,000 square miles, the borderlands between Scotland and England, known as the Scottish Marches. And between the 13th and the beginning of the 17th century, this was a battleground between the two countries. And right in the very middle of it is our mill in Rothbury.
For 300 years, this was the most lawless place in the whole of the British Isles. People lived in fear of being killed or robbed, not only by rival armies, but also by marauding raiders, known as the Border Reavers. The Reavers were local clans who rode out plundering and destroying anything that stood in their way. Smailholm Tower across the border in Scotland was built in the 15th century as a protection against the Reavers. Historian Alistair Moffat is a descendant of a reaving family and an expert on these troubled times. So just looking at this building, I mean, it's incredibly strong, very well kind of fortified, very defensible. Is that why Thrum was built the way it was?
Without a doubt. You know, it's a little fortress on the Cookit.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it looks like. I mean, this is in a defensive position. This is on top of a crag, and you can see for 30 miles from here, but Thrum's on the side of the Cookit in a real declivity, and that means it's more vulnerable.
It's amazing how it changes your perception of a place when you understand its history. I always thought Thrum was a really romantic, idyllic spot. Actually, it must have been bloody scary to be a miller there.
Very scary. It was built at a time when this was a thoroughly criminalised society. You know, watch your head.
Oh my word, Alistair, this is unbelievable.
Rothbury is away over there, just at the tail of the Cheviot Hills.
Yeah.
There'd be a watchman here, George, be looking for bands of Reavers, and he'd light a beacon if he saw them to warn everybody around about to get their beasts inside, to find their weapons, to hide their women, and all that kind of thing.
In 1603, King James succeeds Elizabeth I, and as King of Scotland and England, unites the two countries, ushering in a more peaceful age. But change doesn't happen overnight, and the fear of violence was still present 60 years later, when David and Margaret's mill was built.
the building a mill at Rothbury that looks like a blockhouse. You know, all of that certainly was a testament to a dreadful and terrible past.
And the Reavers, did they die out because of the border changing?
They did. They essentially calmed down and took up rugby.
It's summer, and we're now 6 months into this unique restoration. Morning. What's going on with the roof? Has it collapsed?
Yeah, just went.
Just went.
The rest of it went in, yeah.
Dave and his team are trying to keep the costs down by doing most of the work themselves. They were going to employ a specialist contractor to reconstruct the main roof, but they've now taken the bold step of tackling this job as well.
I think you should take it off.
Think so?
Yeah, I do. Because even though the slates are in fantastic nick, I think when you look at all the stonework you've got to do up the parapet edge, and the chimney, and the ridge, and the fact you've got to refelt, re-insulate, you might as well just strip it back and start from scratch. In fact, it'll probably be quicker and easier.
You've talked us into it?
Sorry, mate.
But there are even more pressing issues than the roof that need Dave's immediate attention.
Crikey, don't do that, man. Bloody hell.
The main chimney in the top of the gable wall is in a terrible state and needs to be rebuilt.
He says lime water's not about attaching brick to brick and stone to stone. He says it's about keeping stones apart.
Most people would become disheartened by such a challenging restoration, but Dave seems to be thriving on it.
You're testing your own limits and pushing yourself to see whether you can make it work. Personally, whether you can do it.
Yeah. Well, that's true, because I mean, there's certain people who've had out on this and they're saying, oh, you can't have that, you can't do that. And I think, well, actually, I think we can, and I think I will.
I think you probably will. Come on, let's do some work.
Northumberland. It's been a long, hard winter. Dave and his team have now repaired all of the old stone walls and chimneys, and they've reconstructed the roof. But while all this work was going on, Dave's wife Margaret, who already suffers from arthritis, fell ill with pneumonia.
You haven't been very well, have you?
No.
Not good at all, that.
Not good at all, no. Poor Dave got a bit of a fright.
I'm not surprised, I bet you did, Rhys.
Yeah, I did.
What happened exactly?
I don't know, I was busy putting the roof on.
And then?
And we've got this strange little text come to the hospital now. And then we got taken into a side room and told she was in intensive care. So.
Intensive care?
Well, they told me they were going to ventilate me and take me to intensive care and ventilate me. And I just panicked thinking, what happens then, you know? Sometimes you don't come back out of it, which the doctors even thought I wasn't going to.
Margaret is on the road to recovery, but with her condition, it's important to keep warm. At the moment, they've only got a small generator on site to provide electricity. But today, Dave's taken another step closer to using the force of the river to power Thrum Mill. Dave Mann, a consultant on hydroelectricity, is here to work out how much power the river could yield. What do you actually do when you do an assessment to gauge whether there's enough power there in the water?
The power in water is very simply calculated by the potential energy that water holds. So it is a combination of the flow of water and the height through which it drops. So in order to assess a site like this, we have to measure how much the water drops from the top by the weir to where it flows back out into the river beyond the wheel. And then we have to assess how much water we can divert from the river and through the wheel. And that gives you the electrical power that you might expect to get from the machine.
Is there going to be enough to power this entire home fully, or would I have to have a backup system with it as well?
There should be enough to power the entire home. There might well be enough power to provide for the heating as well, depending on how the heating system is designed and how well insulated the house itself is.
That's amazing. That's brilliant news, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all you need.
That's fantastic.
That's all you need.
The Coquette is an important migratory river for salmon, and if too much water is diverted from the main flow, the fish will have trouble getting back upstream. So if Dave's going to lower the sluice gates and let water through the wheel once more, he needs to apply for a permit, which will take a minimum of 5 months.
The average flow in this river is about 5.5 tonnes per second. You need about 1 for your wheel. So you're taking a relatively small proportion of water out of the river to do the generation problem.
Dave's wheel will act as the turbine. He'll also need a gearbox to shut it down when necessary and a control panel to feed the electricity into the grid.
How much is it all going to cost? And that was a nervous laugh. If you can't afford it, it all goes pear-shaped.
That equipment, gearbox generator control panel, would be something like £25,000 to £30,000. And then there will be the cost of gaining the permission from the Environment Agency to run it.
It's a lot of money, which takes him over his original restoration budget. But for Dave, it's more than just saving on future electricity bills. Having hydropower at Thrum is an essential part of his restoration dream. This idea will also re-establish a strong local connection that goes back 150 years to the very first days of hydroelectricity. This document is a lease for our mill, dated the 23rd of May 1841, and it's in the name of Sir William George Armstrong, one of the great inventors and entrepreneurs of the Victorian age, and a pioneer for hydroelectricity. Armstrong began his career as a lawyer, but his real passion was always for engineering. As a boy, he spent a lot of time fishing near Thrum Mill, which fueled his fascination with the power of moving water. But the breakthrough that would make his name was not hydroelectrics, but hydraulics, which uses pressurised water to create energy. Now, observing water wheels, Armstrong noticed that they were actually quite inefficient, using only about 10% of the water that passed through them, and that instead, if you forced all of that water through a single pipe, that would generate a huge amount of force, and that energy could be used to power all sorts of mechanical equipment. Armstrong's hydraulic inventions made his fortune, with which he built Craigside, a magnificent Tudor Revival mansion close to Thrum Mill. Here he pursued his fascination with hydroelectricity, which generated power for his estate.
Morning, Henrietta.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Henrietta Heald is the author of a book on the life and work of William Armstrong. What technology and inventions did he bring to Craigside?
Craigside was the first house in the world to be lit by hydroelectricity. It was actually in this room, in this gallery, as it is known, that light came on for the first time.
That's a staggering achievement for any building and inventor, isn't it?
It is, indeed. And, of course, it happened with help of Joseph Swan, because Joseph Swan was a Newcastle chemist and he was a friend of Armstrong, and he had just managed to perfect, after many years of trying, the first light bulb. And Armstrong had the power, and he had the means. 1880s actually was when it first came on.
The first light bulb comes on, powered by hydroelectricity.
Yes.
I mean, incredibly ecological for its time.
Craigside became known as the Palace of the Modern Magician, a showcase for all the latest technologies of the age. Armstrong's hydroelectrics powered hot and cold running water and even central heating. It was the only house of its time to boast such luxuries.
I just love the fact that because of this beautiful river, our fantastic mill, Armstrong being here as a kid, fishing in that river, that's the whole reason why Craigside, this wonderful house, has been built, and also inspired all of the ideas he's had about hydraulics and hydroelectric power.
Yes,
it's quite magical, isn't it?
No, it is magical. It's a wonderful thing.
It's now 18 months into the restoration, and despite the improved appearance of the stonework, the scaffolding is still up.
Have you not finished all this heavy work yet? I'm sure you just save it for when I come up, you know. Maybe. You all right?
got this ready for you?
Yeah, typical.
That's out ready now.
At least the sun's shining for once.
Good man. And it is heavy, I'm telling you.
Dave has acquired a couple of 150-year-old canal lock gates that he's going to use to repair the side wall of the mill race which channels the water down to the wheel.
So you've got to get that down, get it drilled, and get it on top of those balls.
Slip it on top.
And get it level. 1, 2,
coming down. You got it? Go on. Watch it. It's going. One more. Go on. The least distance we've got to walk it, the better. You ready?
You think about it, everything that would have been built here originally, just graft, hard graft. No cranes, no fancy lifting gear, nothing. Margaret?
Hello.
There you are, how are you?
Inside, on the lower floor, in what will be their kitchen, Dave and Margaret have a long way to go. But there is one big development.
Staircases in?
Staircases
It's
in. 2 staircases.
You've cracked it?
Cracked it, at last.
Slowly, it's coming together, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how does the staircase look upstairs? Is that
It's
one in
great.
as well?
Do you want to have a look?
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Actually, when you get to this level, it works really well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Because I know you were worried about it coming too far into the space.
Yeah. No,
When you think of all the restrictions of your head height, hitting that timber, avoiding the wind upstairs, getting the wall in the right position upstairs,
Yeah.
it was really difficult.
Yeah.
You've probably come up with the best and the most efficient scheme, and actually I think it's the only way it would have worked.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's brilliant. I'm chuffed.
This is it.
Class.
Restoring the mill wheel is a vital part of this project, and in this local workshop, they're using Dave's precisely taken measurements to cut the 224 individual pieces that will make up the wheel's outer rim.
And the way this has been cut, it's like 21st century laser technology, slicing through steel like a knife through butter. Is this it?
This is
coming
it.
together already, that's fantastic, that.
Yeah, it's coming together quick.
The nice thing about this stuff is because it's been made in all these individual bits, means you could actually assemble it on site in sections, couldn't you?
Yeah, you could.
I had this mad image that this 4.5-ton lump of a wheel was coming up in one big massive section, but I mean, with steel of that weight, you'd never get it in.
No. No, it's wait. Just picking that bit up's enough.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, and after a call from Dave and Margaret, I'm back at the mill. There's been a major flood, their third in 4 years.
I honestly thought when I came around that headland, if it wasn't there, you know, I wouldn't be surprised because there was so much destruction. I thought the gable end would have gone. Yeah, that's all the scaffolding boards away, you see. That's all my bottom stage gone.
All the scaffolding boards gone.
And the amount of debris, you know, heavy materials that came down and the velocity.
Well, so you had, what, trees coming down, branches?
Trees, security fencing, gate posts, unbelievably big stones. And the mill race, which was empty, is 4 and 5 foot full of heavy stones. You know, it's jam-packed with debris, which, you know, it's going to be absolutely murder to move.
It's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back on this build, isn't it? You make a big leap ahead and then you get knocked by the weather and you have to take a back step and then get your head down and get stuck into it again.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Today is a big day, particularly for Margaret. Her new range cooker has arrived.
Watch your heads.
Oh, oh, oh. That is gorgeous.
You like it?
Love it. I just want to get cooking now.
But that day seems a long way off, when the restoration suffers another setback.
Has he not told you he's broke his rib?
He broke his ribs?
Broken rib, yeah. It's only a week ago since he'd done it. He's not supposed to be doing anything at all. He's tackled the windows, he's been doing all sorts of ridiculous things that he shouldn't have been doing. But he can't stop himself.
He doesn't know the meaning of the word rest.
No chance.
At all, does he?
So there's a tiny bit of us thinks, oh, drat, Dave's hurt himself. How long's that going to push me mill back?
Since I first came to Thrum Mill almost 2 years ago, I've seen Northumberland in every season, and I'm glad to say that winter doesn't disappoint.
Morning.
Hi, George.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
What a fantastic day.
I know, it's gorgeous.
Absolutely beautiful.
Dave and Margaret have poured their heart and soul into this restoration. And throughout all the problems they've had to endure, they've never compromised or cut corners. The love they've put into this building is clear to see.
Look at that. The stonework looks beautiful, the windows are fantastic, and the roof, you can tell it's really well insulated because the snow hasn't melted.
Yep.
It's just picture perfect. Even the little bit of smoke coming out your chimney.
It's a sexy beast.
Should we go inside and have a look?
Yeah, well.
Go on, I've got to make snowballs on the way. I'm going to chuck a snowball at your roof. Oh, look at these doors, beautiful.
Yeah.
Come in, George.
Before they started the restoration, the lower floor was a mess of broken masonry and abandoned mill machinery. It was hard to believe that this could ever become a home.
Oh, look at that. Oh, it's really good, isn't it? Really homely, really beautiful. Everything you look at just feels really rich in terms of the material and the detail, doesn't it?
We didn't want to overdo it. You know, you really could overdo it. You had to get the right balance.
Yeah.
You don't want to over-refine it.
No.
And we just sort of start at the bottom and work our way up, do room by room, and just get it right.
I don't think it matters at all about how long this has taken. And actually,
I mean, I have been slightly fanatical. If it took a week to do something, it took a week. You would just have to sign that week off.
with a restoration project like this, it takes a long time.
But there can't be any shortcut.
No.
To celebrate the building's agricultural past, Dave's put the old mill machinery behind glass. It's a very simple and elegant way to preserve the working parts of this building that will soon power their new home.
Absolutely perfect, the way that you've kept all the old features and you've just had to build around it, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think we still have a comfortable living space, you know, which you have to have. I mean, you've got to live with it every day.
And noise-wise, I'm a bit shocked. Because you put the new windows in, fully double glazed, it's so quiet.
Have a try.
Brilliant.
The best thing about this project for me has always been Dave and Margaret's passion to reinstate the mill wheel to generate electricity. The wheel hasn't yet been installed, but that day doesn't seem too far off.
I mean, ideally what we need is we need a break in the weather. You know, we can have a good few solid days on it, if not weeks.
Weeks, I think.
Because it's, I mean, it's
definitely weeks.
Because it's an engineering project in itself.
Yeah.
You know, just because of the weight of all the pieces. You know, we've got to make all the yoke spokes, we've got to make all the paddles. And the only way we can make them really is on site, on the job, as it's being built, section by section.
You've done the right thing holding off. The question is now, how long have you got to wait for this weather to drop, the water level to drop, and give you the few weeks you need to get the wheel on? And that's turning against the mill. I mean, that's going to be the icing on the cake when it's finished. I think it's brilliant that this mill is going to have a working wheel back on there.
We haven't rushed anything, so we're not going to rush that.
Yeah. I don't blame you.
Quality has always come first for Dave and Margaret, and the fact that Dave's work commitments meant he could only be on site 3 days a week makes their achievement even more incredible. When I first came here, the ground floor was an abandoned wreck, falling apart at the seams. Dave and his small team have transformed it into a bright, uplifting space. They've raised the floor up to the level of the millstones and have started laying the new wooden floor. Upstairs, the bedroom walls have been constructed with their high glass partitions that will make the best use of the available light, and the ensuite bathrooms are taking shape. This restoration has been a superhuman effort, and one that I'm proud to have been part of. Present. Your Thrum Mill history book. Wow. This is your life of Thrum Mill.
All right.
Congratulations on your amazing achievements so far. And it is mine. And there it is. There's Thrum Mill.
Wow.
And then this is the dark side of Thrum Mill, all about the border Reavers and the attacks on the buildings. And why they attacked and what they did. Look at all this. Full story.
Amazing.
There's you two. Look at that, in the end. So that's yours.
Fantastic.
The history of Thrum Mill.
Oh, thank you very much,
Oh,
George.
that's great.
That's amazing.
That's fantastic.
Cheers.
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 Congratulations.
Thank you, George.
To Thrum Mill.
Thrum Mill, yeah.
After 50 years of neglect, this beautiful building is now poised to begin its new life as a home. What's fantastic is that when the wheel is working again and harnessing power from the river, it will also stay true to its past. What Dave and Margaret have achieved here is nothing short of being unbelievable. And they've always said it'll be finished when it's finished. And you know what? When it is, I can't wait to come back.